Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unraveling a truly fascinating historical mystery straight out of the 18th century Qing dynasty. We're looking at a deeply human story that's hidden right inside the super rigid rules of the imperial court. I mean, just imagine being the actual emperor of China, but you still have to answer to a hyper-controlling father who dictates exactly how you're allowed to mourn the loss of your own wife. It's this wild story of ultimate power, hidden sorrow, and some seriously incredible historical detective work.
Okay, let's dive into this because this whole scenario sets up a toxic family dynamic that feels almost shockingly modern. We usually think of history's emperors as these untouchable gods who could just do whatever they wanted, right? But what happens when the absolute ruler of a dynasty officially retires but absolutely refuses to give up his power over his son? Well, you end up with a workplace and family environment where your boss is literally your dad, and he's micromanaging not just your career, but your most intimate emotional life.
Based on the historical documents we're digging into today, I think a pretty fitting modern nickname for the famous Emperor Conlong would be history's biggest double-standard boy. We're not going to introduce him as the grand, infallible historical figure you might read about in a standard textbook. No, we're looking at a highly self-centered patriarch. As you'll see, he was a guy who played by a completely different set of rules than everyone else around him. He demanded ultimate empathy for himself, but offered absolutely zero to his own family. Section 1. The Emperor's Double Standards, a Tale of Two Griefs. So, to really understand these double standards, we have to look at how Qianlong's famously deep affection seemed to only apply when it was convenient for his own schedule. Take his own wife, Empress Xiaoxian. When she died, he played the grieving husband to the absolute max. He explicitly stated that 27 months was way too fast to even think about remarrying. 27 months! He claimed he just couldn't bear it, saying his personal pain required extended time and respect. He made sure the entire empire knew his grief was profound and that it definitely could not be rushed by the demands of the state. But contrast that immediately with a very different number, 100. Fast forward a few decades, his son Jiaqing becomes emperor, and tragically Jiaqing's own wife passes away. Now, Qianlong was technically the retired emperor at this point, but let's be real, he still held all the actual power. And how much time did he give his son to mourn? Barely over 100 days. Yep. After just 100 days, Qianlong forced his son to elevate a new royal consort to take her place. And this brilliantly illustrates Section 2, his pain versus his son's, when order trumps emotion. Just look at this stark contrast. On the left, we have Qianlong's grief. His whole stance was basically, my pain matters, my grief needs to be understood, 27 months is way too fast. But then on the right, you see his mandate for his son's grief. 100 days is plenty, the inner court cannot be empty, hurry up and replace her. Qianlong used his ultimate authority to prioritize his own feelings when he was the one hurting, while forcing his son to just conform to the system and push past his trauma immediately. Now, you might be wondering, why was Qianlong in such a rush to force his son to move on? Well, just listen to the sheer audacity of this historical record. In the official texts, Qianlong literally complained, "The daughter-in-law duties are lacking, and I am not happy." I mean, wow. This just shows that Qianlong's rush wasn't even about maintaining some grand court order. It was all about his own selfish desire to have someone there to serve him and pay him his daily respects. He prioritized his own minor daily comforts over his son's devastating loss. So, the crucial point is, was Emperor Jiaqing really just okay with this? Did he simply not care that the wife he had been married to for 23 years was just gone? Did he willingly follow his dad's schedule? To answer that, we have to pivot our narrative away from Qianlong's tyranny and look at the mystery of Jiaqing's true internal emotional state. Which brings us to Section 3. Jiaqing's silent protest, decoding the emperor's poetry. To figure out how Jiaqing truly felt about this forced timeline, we really have to play historical detective. See, he couldn't exactly speak out against his all-powerful father directly. So instead, we have to look at the poetry he wrote during the suppressive period. And let me tell you, finding the truth was no small feat. To uncover this hidden pattern, researchers had to comb through exactly 15,267 of Jiaqing's poems. I mean, just imagine reading through that massive volume of undigitized historical text one by one, just hoping to find subtle clues left behind by a grieving, silenced son. Section 4. Tears Hidden in Jades, the Secret Language of Mourning.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the incredible discovery that emerged out of those thousands of poems. During the years his father was still alive and controlling everything, a very specific recurring motif pops up. Jiaqing repeatedly wrote about paired objects. We're talking paired mandarin ducks, double fish jades, double crane jades, and within these poems about carved stones, he constantly wove in these themes of losing a mate, of being left alone, and of bonds suddenly broken. These objects were literally a silent, disguised tribute to his late wife. Since he couldn't publicly mourn her, he mourned carved jade birds that had lost their partners instead. Just listen to this heartbreaking translated line from one of those jade poems. If objects are like this, how can a person bear it? It's just so sad. It so powerfully illustrates the deep sorrow Jiaqing was carrying around every day. He had to hide his tears behind descriptions of jade ornaments, all because the person standing in front of him, his own father, was a man who demanded his son's grief be kept quiet and orderly. Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 5. Shift after Qianlong dies, the freedom to mourn. The story takes a massive, dramatic turn once the controlling patriarch finally passes away and Jiaqing actually gains the true power of the throne. Tracing this on a timeline makes the whole pattern undeniably clear. First, his wife dies, and he's forced to elevate a new consort in just 100 days. Second, during the era where his father Qianlong is still alive, we see years of this secret paired jade poetry. But look at step 3. The very moment Qianlong dies, the jade poetry completely vanishes. It stops entirely. Instead, Jiaqing immediately begins making public, regular visits to his late wife's tomb. The absolute second he was free from his father's gaze, he dropped the metaphors and mourned her openly. This historical record leaves us with an absolutely undeniable correlation. When Qianlong was alive, Jiaqing wrote about paired jades to hide his grief. When Qianlong was dead, the paired jades disappeared and were completely replaced by public regular tomb visits. This proves that Jiaqing never, ever stopped mourning his wife of 23 years. He just had to adapt how he expressed it based on who held the ultimate power in the family. Which brings us to a final thought to leave you with today. Does the way we are allowed to grieve say more about our own pain or about the power of the people around us? This whole historical explainer shows us that even an emperor of China couldn't escape the toxic dynamics of a parent who put their own comfort above their child's devastation. It is such a powerful reminder of how deeply power dynamics can suppress even the most personal, fundamental human emotions. Take some time to reflect on that. I really hope this dive into history has given you a whole new perspective.